You want to become stronger, fitter, more disciplined, but the truth is, you can't just add those things on top of who you are now. You have to remove the version of yourself that's been holding you back. That weak version, the one that hits snooze, skips workouts, eats trash, and justifies failure isn't just a bad habit. It's a person you've built over time. And the only way to evolve is to break that person down to the core. That's not easy, it's not comfortable, but it's necessary. Destruction isn't chaos, it's strategy. It's understanding that growth comes from breaking. A muscle only gets bigger when it tears first. So what makes you think you can grow without tearing through your own limitations? You can't stay the same and expect a new result. Every excuse, every compromise, every "I'll start tomorrow" has to be ripped out of your mind like a rotten foundation. This isn't about tweaking your routine. It's about gutting your entire mindset. You have to look in the mirror and call yourself out. Brutally, you have to admit where you've been soft, where you've been lazy, where you've let fear dictate your life. Stop sugarcoating it. You don't need a pat on the back. You need a wake-up call, and no one's coming to save you. No trainer, no friend, no influencer is going to crawl into your skin and fix your work ethic. It starts with you, and it starts when you decide that the current version of yourself isn't worth saving. People talk about transformation like it's some magical moment. It's not. It's a process of destruction. A slow, painful demolition of your bad habits, your weak mindset, your excuses. You destroy yourself in the gym when you push past fatigue, when your body screams to stop, and you keep going anyway. You destroy yourself when you stop negotiating with your goals, when it's no longer about how you feel, but about what needs to be done no matter what. And that destruction doesn't just happen physically. It happens mentally, emotionally. You'll have to kill the part of you that craves comfort, that fears discomfort, that resists pain, because that version of you, it's lying to you. It's keeping you small. And it's scared of who you might become if you actually started taking life seriously. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, those are all chains you need to break if you're ever going to become something real. Let's be honest, the life you want isn't possible with the current version of yourself. That dream physique, that next level mindset, that killer confidence, they all require a new identity. You have to burn the old one down. You have to destroy the part of you that looks for shortcuts, the part that needs motivation to act. Because that version of you will never make it. That version will always settle, always break under pressure, always find an excuse. This process hurts. You'll lose parts of yourself, parts you've clung to for years. Maybe it's the identity of being the funny guy who doesn't take anything seriously. Maybe it's the comfort of mediocrity. Maybe it's the ego that tells you you're already doing enough. All of it has to go. This isn't just about training your body. It's about shedding a skin you've outgrown, even if it tears on the way out. Growth is violent, evolution is messy, but most people won't do it. Most people are terrified of letting go. They're addicted to their current identity, even if it's killing them slowly. It's easier to coast, to stay average, to keep blaming the world, the weather, the genetics, the schedule. But you're not most people. If you've come this far, you know something inside you needs to change. And not in a temporary way. You're not looking for a motivational quote. You're looking for a reset, a rebirth. You don't get that by stacking motivation on top of weakness. You get it by ripping weakness out by the root. That's what destruction really means. Not self-hate, not chaos, but choosing to break down the fake version of yourself so that something real can stand in its place. It's intentional, it's brutal, but it's freedom, and you have to earn it through suffering. No one wants to suffer. But those who do, those who choose the fire, get rebuilt into something unbreakable. This isn't about becoming a better version of yourself. It's about becoming someone else entirely, and that starts when you destroy the person you are now. You have to understand something fundamental. Transformation doesn't begin when you feel inspired. It begins when you get sick of your own excuses. It starts in that moment of raw honesty, when you finally admit that the version of yourself you've been living with isn't the one you were meant to be. You can't keep holding on to comfort and expect to grow. You can't continue living as the almost version of yourself and expect to build something extraordinary. If you want to change, truly change, then you have to be willing to destroy the parts of you that are in the way. That means the lazy version of you has to go. The one that sleeps in, that skips workouts, that scrolls endlessly instead of doing something that builds you. That version has to be dismantled brick by brick. And it's not going to happen with a single motivational video. It's going to take war. A war against the version of you that prioritizes temporary pleasure over long-term progress. A war against the comfortable routines that have kept you average for way too long. You don't need more motivation. You need demolition. You need to tear down what's weak before you can build what's strong. There's a part of you that already knows this. That voice in the back of your head, it whispers at first, then it screams. It tells you you're capable of more, and every time you ignore it, you reinforce the old you. The tired, slow, distracted, reactive version of yourself. The one that lies to you. The one that says, it's okay, we'll start tomorrow. The one that tells you you're doing fine when deep down, you know you're not even scratching the surface of what you could be. You can't coexist with that version of yourself if you want to be great. Greatness isn't something you stumble into. It's something you earn through pain, not just physical pain, but mental, emotional, spiritual pain. The pain of letting go of who you've been so you can make space for who you need to become. That kind of destruction isn't pretty, it's not a clean break, it's messy, it's chaotic, and it forces you to confront parts of yourself you've been avoiding for years. But you have to go there. You have to go deep into the parts of you that are soft, scared, lazy, and rip them out at the root. When you walk into the gym, you're not just lifting weights. You're lifting the weight of your excuses. You're battling with the version of yourself that would rather quit. Every rep is an act of destruction. Every drop of sweat is a small death of the old you. You're not training your body. You're tearing down your limits. You're not chasing aesthetics, you're hunting down your potential. And the only way to find it is to go through hell and choose not to turn back. There's something primal about this process. You versus you. No audience, no cheers, just the sound of your own breath and the weight of your own expectations. It's not about posting PR or flexing in the mirror. It's about standing face with your weaker self and choosing violence. Choosing effort, choosing pain over comfort. Most people won't do it. They'll stay safe, but you're here because something inside you is begging to evolve. And evolution doesn't happen without destruction first. Everything that's been holding you back, bad habits, toxic mindsets, fear, procrastination, those aren't just traits. They're parasites, and they've been feeding on your potential for far too long. You don't manage parasites. You eliminate them. That's why this process is so brutal. You're not just making improvements, you're starting over. You're setting fire to everything that made you soft. That kind of destruction requires a different kind of energy. It's not a vibe, it's a decision, and once you make it, there's no going back. This isn't about finding balance. It's about choosing imbalance intentionally. so you can swing the pendulum far enough to break through the walls you've built around yourself. You're going to be sore, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to question if it's worth it. But the truth is, the pain of destroying yourself is nothing compared to the pain of staying the same. So if you've got to suffer either way, you might as well suffer in the direction of growth. You might as well let the old version of you die screaming, while the new you rises with fire in your chest and iron in your soul. Every time you say no to comfort and yes to the grind, you're destroying the version of you that's been stuck in place. Every time you push through fatigue, you're silencing the voice that tells you to quit. That's the process. That's what destruction looks like, not chaos, but control. Not collapse, but conscious effort to erase the unnecessary. Every rep, every set, every early morning and late night, they all count. They all dig the grave for the old you, one shovel at a time. This isn't something you try once and walk away from. It's something you live. It becomes who you are. You wake up with it. You train with it. You suffer through it because you understand the truth. Before you can ever build the life and the body you want, you have to destroy the one that's been holding you back. Every time you walk into the gym, you're stepping into a war zone. And your enemy is the version of you that wants to take it easy. That voice in your head that says, just do the minimum, or you've done enough for today. That voice isn't just harmless doubt. It's resistance, and it's powerful. But here's the truth most people don't want to face. If you're not actively fighting that version of yourself, then it's winning. The gym is not just a place where you lift weights. It's where you go to wage war against the part of you that's satisfied with being average. Every single rep is an opportunity to fight back. Every time your muscles start to shake, when your heart's pounding, when everything in your body is screaming to quit, that's when the real battle begins. That's when the old you starts to whisper, "It's fine, you've done enough." And that's when you either rise or you retreat. You don't win that war by giving in. You win it by pushing harder. You win it by choosing pain, not because you like it, but because it's the only path to growth. Weakness wants you to stop. Strength demands that you continue. When you're under that bar, no one's coming to help. No one cares how tired you are. No one's going to lift that weight for you. It's you against the resistance. And that resistance isn't just the weight. It's the old mindset trying to survive. It's the part of you that doesn't want to suffer. That's the real opponent. That's the version of you that's in the way. Every time you add more weight, every time you do one more rep, every time you show up when you don't feel like it, you're crushing that version slowly, deliberately, with pure discipline. That's why the gym is a battlefield. It's not about the mirror. It's not about the pump. It's about facing your limits and deciding they don't define you. It's about refusing to let weakness dictate your outcome. There's a war happening inside of you every single day, and most people surrender without even knowing it. They give in to comfort. They give in to fatigue. They walk out of the gym satisfied with 70%, and then wonder why nothing changes. That's not training. That's survival, and survival doesn't build legends. You have to treat every session like it matters, because it does. You have to treat every set like it's a message to your future self. I'm not done, I'm not satisfied, I'm not stopping here. If you train without purpose, without intensity, you're just moving through the motions. You're feeding the old you with every half effort and lazy rep. But when you walk in with fire in your chest and a mission in your mind, everything changes. The gym becomes your proving ground, and the old you becomes your target. It's not about having motivation. Motivation fades. It disappears when things get hard. This is about having a mission. A war you're fighting every single day until the weak version of you is dead and gone. That's why you don't train for fun. You train for transformation. You don't show up for entertainment. You show up to tear the old skin off and build something raw and real underneath. That kind of training doesn't just build your body. It rebuilds your identity, your mindset, your future. Most people aren't ready for that kind of war. They want the results, but they don't want the fight. They want the body, but not the battle. That's why you see so many quit halfway through. They don't understand that the gym isn't just about reps and routines. It's about facing your own personal war zone. It's about walking into the fire willingly and coming out forged. And you don't get forged by skipping the hard days. You don't become unbreakable by avoiding the pain. You have to embrace the suffering and see it for what it is, a weapon. A weapon to kill the weak version of you. The gym doesn't lie. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your excuses. It only responds to effort. That's why it's the most honest place you'll ever go. Every day you train, you're either building the new you or feeding the old you. There's no in between. And if you don't show up with the mindset to dominate, the old you will win by default. He'll creep back in and take control of your thoughts, your discipline, your results. And before you know it, you're back to square one. You have to stay on the attack. You have to go to war every time you train. Not just physically, but mentally. You've got to keep your foot on the throat of the version of you that wants to settle. You've got to remind yourself every single day why you started this journey and why you can't stop. Because if you ease up for 1 second, if you let that old self breathe, he'll take the wheel again. And he'll drive you straight back to regret, failure, and weakness. You can't afford that, not now. Not ever. So when you train, you fight, you destroy, you dominate, because this is war. The truth most people avoid is that transformation requires sacrifice. Not the kind of surface-level sacrifice people post about online. Real sacrifice. The type that costs you sleep, comfort, ego, and sometimes even relationships. You can't build a stronger, sharper, more focused version of yourself without leaving something behind. And what you leave behind is always something you've grown attached to. That's why it hurts. That's why most people stay stuck. Because the price of leveling up feels too high, and they're not ready to pay in full. If you want to build a disciplined life, the first sacrifice is comfort. Comfort is a liar. It tells you you're fine where you are. It whispers that it's okay to take it easy, that you've done enough. But comfort never builds champions. Champions suffer. They wake up before the world does. They train when no one's watching. They keep their nutrition on point when everyone else is cheating. That level of consistency doesn't come without giving up what feels good in the moment. You trade comfort for commitment, and it's a trade that most aren't willing to make. You also have to sacrifice your identity. The version of you that everyone knows, the chill guy, the normal one, the one who's always down to skip a session or eat whatever. That version has to go. You can't keep pretending to be the old you and expect a new life to show up. Change demands that you become unrecognizable even to yourself. You start to think different, move different, train different. That's the price. You have to sacrifice how people perceive you so you can become who you really are. Time is another sacrifice, and not just the hours in the gym. That's the easy part. It's the mental space, the planning, the recovery, the focus it takes all day long. You don't just turn this on and off. If you want real change, it becomes part of your identity. You skip parties. You turn down invites. You miss out on things that used to excite you. And people won't understand. They'll say you're obsessed. They'll say you've changed. But that's the point. You're not doing this for them. You're sacrificing for a version of you they haven't even met yet. There's also the sacrifice of ease. Building muscle, building discipline, building a new life. It's not supposed to be easy. If it were, everyone would do it. There's nothing casual about this process. It's uncomfortable. It's frustrating. It's repetitive. But those who can lean into that discomfort and embrace the grind without looking for shortcuts are the ones who rise. You don't become powerful by coasting. You become powerful by willingly choosing the hard road over and over again, even when it would be easier to tap out. Sacrificing excuses is one of the most critical steps. Excuses are comfortable. They give you an out when things get hard. I didn't have time. My schedule's crazy. I'm tired. These are the things the old version of you relies on to survive. But when you start sacrificing those excuses and replacing them with ownership, that's when things shift. You start holding yourself accountable. You stop waiting for the perfect time and start acting like your goals are non-negotiable. And that sacrifice, the death of excuses, is the birth of discipline. You'll also need to sacrifice emotional reactions. Discipline isn't about how you feel. It's about what you do. You might not feel like training. You might be angry, sad, unmotivated, drained. But emotions don't get a say in this process. If you let your emotions drive the car, you crash every time. Sacrifice means showing up regardless of how you feel. It means mastering yourself in the moments where most people would break. That's where real strength is built, in the moments of resistance when every part of you wants to quit and you still go forward. Another thing you'll sacrifice is your past. All the mistakes, the failures, the doubt. You can't keep carrying that weight and expect to move forward. Eventually, you have to let go of the stories you've been telling yourself about who you are. I've never been fit. I always quit. I'm not like those people. Those beliefs are anchors. If you want to build a new you, you have to sacrifice the victim mentality and start acting like you're in control. Because you are, and the sooner you sacrifice that false narrative, the faster you'll step into your power. You'll even sacrifice praise. In the beginning, people will cheer you on, but as you get deeper into the grind, the support fades. You'll work hard in silence. You'll progress without applause. You'll sacrifice external validation because your internal standards are higher than anyone else's expectations. This is where a lot of people fall off. They need to be seen, liked, acknowledged, but true growth doesn't need a spotlight. It needs tunnel vision. It needs grit. It needs the kind of focus that's willing to go unnoticed for months, maybe years, in order to achieve something unforgettable. Lastly, you'll sacrifice your old environment, friends who don't support your goals, spaces that trigger old habits, routines that lead nowhere. You can't plant new seeds in dead soil. If your circle isn't growing, it's shrinking. And if you're serious about transformation, you'll outgrow some people, some places, some patterns. It doesn't make you heartless. It makes you focused, because when your vision is real, when your purpose is locked in, you're willing to sacrifice anything that stands in the way of the person you're becoming. Most people wait for motivation to show up before they act. They wait to feel ready, to get in the mood, to be inspired by a quote, a video, a moment. But that mindset is exactly what keeps them average, because motivation is temporary. It fades the second things get uncomfortable. It disappears when you're sore, when you're tired, when the progress is slow. If your grind is built on motivation, then it will crumble the moment that motivation disappears. The ones who truly rise are the ones who rely on something far more powerful: discipline. Discipline is cold. It doesn't care about how you feel. It doesn't ask for your opinion. It doesn't need permission from your emotions. It just does what needs to be done. It's not flashy. It doesn't beg for attention. It's that quiet voice that says, "Get up, do the work." And it's always there, especially when motivation isn't. Discipline is what carries you when your body aches, when your mind wants to rest, and when no one is watching. It's not about being pumped up. It's about being locked in. You have to train yourself to act without negotiation. That's the essence of discipline. No bargaining, no delays, no overthinking. You don't ask, "Do I feel like training today?" You don't sit there wondering if you're in the mood to eat clean. You just execute, because once you give yourself space to negotiate, you've already lost. The brain is designed to protect you from discomfort. But growth demands discomfort. And that means you have to override the part of you that seeks ease. Motivation is a wave, but discipline is the tide. It doesn't crash hard and then fade away. It keeps pulling you forward day after day, whether you want it to or not. That's how real progress is built, not in explosive moments of hype, but in the dull, repetitive, painful consistency of doing the right thing when it would be easier not to. That's what separates the committed from the casual, the ones who build something real from the ones who just talk about it. Every time you act with discipline, you cast a vote for the future you want. You reinforce a new identity, someone who follows through, someone who doesn't flinch when it's hard. That repetition is how character is formed. It's not one big decision that changes your life. It's thousands of small ones stacked on top of each other. Wake up early, hit the workout, prep the meals, skip the distractions. These aren't just tasks, they're declarations of who you are becoming. You need to stop relying on feeling like it and start honoring your commitments regardless of emotion. Emotion is unstable. It shifts with the weather, with stress, with energy levels. Discipline, on the other hand, is rooted in purpose. It's built on clarity. When you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, it becomes easier to push through the resistance. You stop chasing the high and start building the habit, and eventually it becomes automatic, not because it's easy, but because you've conditioned yourself to operate with precision. There's a strange kind of freedom in discipline. Most people think discipline is restrictive. They think it's about saying no to everything and living like a robot. But real discipline actually gives you control. It gives you the ability to take ownership over your life. You're no longer at the mercy of mood swings, cravings, or distractions. You become someone who moves with purpose, who makes decisions based on vision, not on impulse. And that kind of control is rare. It's powerful. It's what builds greatness. You also begin to notice that the people who rely on motivation constantly fall off. They start strong, then disappear. They're excited for a week, then they're back to square one. Why? Because they never trained the muscle of discipline. They never taught themselves how to move without hype. So when life punches them in the mouth, which it always will, they crumble. But when you've built discipline, you don't need to be in the right mood. You just show up. You put in the reps. You get better regardless of the storm. It's also important to understand that discipline isn't something you either have or you don't. It's built brick by brick, decision by decision. It starts small, choosing to show up, choosing to say no, choosing to go the extra round. And over time, those small wins compound into a mental fortress. People will look at you and think you're obsessed. They won't understand how you're able to keep going, but you'll know the truth. It's not obsession. It's not magic. It's discipline, refined through repetition and earned through sacrifice. You have to stop waiting to be in the right mood. That's a trap. If you want to build something that lasts, whether it's a physique, a career, or a legacy, you need to build it on the back of discipline. You need to show up on the days when everything in you says stay home. You need to keep pushing when your body says quit. You need to lock in when your mind tries to wander, because that's what winners do. They don't rely on mood, they rely on mission. Visualizing success isn't some motivational cliche. It's a mental weapon. The strongest bodies are built in the gym, but the strongest lives are built in the mind first. Before a single rep is lifted, before the sweat drips down your face, before the pain kicks in, you have to see where you're going. You have to build it in your head before it ever shows up in your reality. That's what separates winners from wishers. Most people walk into the gym hoping to feel good. The few who dominate are the ones who walk in already seeing the finished product in their mind. Before you ever pick up a dumbbell, before you touch the treadmill, you need to lock into a vision so clear that it's already real to you. See the body you're building, see the life you're creating through your effort. Picture the man or woman you're going to become. Visualize how they walk, how they speak, how they carry themselves with unshakable confidence and power. The world might not see it yet, but if you do, that's enough to start. That image becomes your anchor. It keeps you from drifting when motivation dies and the pain kicks in. But visualization isn't passive. It's not just sitting there daydreaming and hoping something changes. It's active. You close your eyes and see yourself dominating every workout. You see yourself pushing through the reps others quit on. You see yourself becoming the version of you that doesn't break, doesn't bend, and doesn't make excuses. The more real it becomes in your mind, the more natural it becomes in your life. It's not fantasy, it's programming. You're training your brain to believe in the standard you're stepping into, not the one you're leaving behind. This process builds discipline. When you see where you're going clearly, every little action starts to matter more. Skipping a workout isn't just missing the gym, it's a step away from your vision. Eating junk isn't just a cheat meal, it's fuel for the old you. And once you visualize the higher version of yourself enough times, quitting becomes harder, slipping becomes less tempting. Because you're no longer just training for the moment, you're training to become someone. That image becomes a contract, and your actions become your signature on it. Most people never take time to build that inner clarity. They chase random goals, drift through workouts, and wonder why they're stuck in circles. It's because they don't know what they're really chasing. But when you visualize with intensity and focus, you create direction. And with direction comes power. You don't waste time. You don't question why you're tired or sore. You already know the pain is part of the blueprint. You already know the struggle is the price of admission. You've seen the reward too clearly to walk away from it now. You also start to shift the way you see pain. Pain stops being something to avoid. It becomes proof that you're aligning with the vision. The burn in your muscles becomes confirmation. The discipline in your routine becomes evidence. Everything you do begins to revolve around making that mental picture your reality. And suddenly, what felt like suffering turns into purpose. What used to break you now builds you. You're not chasing results, you're chasing alignment. You want the outside to match what you already see inside. When you lock in like this, other people start to notice. They won't understand what drives you, but they'll feel it. They'll see that you're moving differently, training differently, thinking differently. That's the power of vision. It shapes not only what you do, but who you become. It makes you walk into a room with certainty. It makes you handle failure with resilience. It makes you rise on the days others stay down. Because you're not living by default, you're moving with intention. Every step, every breath, every rep is a part of the plan. And don't expect others to understand it. They won't see what you see. They'll call it obsession. They'll say you're taking it too seriously. But what they don't realize is you're not chasing the next pump or the next mirror selfie. You're chasing the person you're meant to become. You're chasing a level of discipline, focus, and strength that most people will never touch. That vision is your secret weapon. It gives you clarity in chaos. It gives you fire in fatigue. It gives you peace in pressure. Some days the results won't be visible yet. You'll grind and sweat and still feel stuck. That's when visualization becomes even more important. You go back to that mental movie, you replay it, you remind yourself of the standard, you keep your eyes on the person you're building. Because if you can hold the vision long enough, your actions will eventually match. You don't stop just because the world hasn't caught up yet. You keep pushing because you already see it, and that belief is what turns dreams into discipline and goals into reality. So before every workout, every early morning, every hard choice, take a moment to lock in. Shut out the noise, close your eyes, and see it. See the end result like it's already yours. Feel what it's like to live as that stronger, sharper, unstoppable version of you. And then go do the work required to meet them. Because that version of you is waiting. And it's only a matter of time before your reality catches up to the vision you refuse to let go of. The journey of transformation is not meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be painful. The pain is not punishment. It's not suffering for the sake of suffering. It's the process of refinement. The fire that burns away the weak parts of you and reveals what you're truly made of. Most people run from pain. They avoid it, numb it, or complain about it. But the truth is, pain is the gatekeeper of strength. You don't become disciplined, focused, or powerful without going through the discomfort first. It's not optional, it's essential. Every time you step into the gym and push your body to the point of shaking, you're doing more than just training muscles. You're learning how to suffer with purpose. You're conditioning your mind to embrace resistance, to welcome the challenge instead of backing down from it. The pain you feel in your legs during that last set of squats, the burn in your lungs when you push for one more sprint. Those are the moments that separate the committed from the convenient. That pain, that's growth knocking on the door, asking if you're serious or just pretending. You have to start treating pain like your personal coach. It's not there to destroy you. It's there to teach you. It reveals where you're still weak, where your discipline still slips, where your mind still negotiates with your goals. Pain exposes all the fake talk and tests whether you really mean what you say. Anyone can be fired up when things are easy. Anyone can train hard on a good day. But who are you when it hurts? Who are you when your body says no and your goals demand yes? You have to understand that pain is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. There's no shortcut, no easy route, no comfort zone that will carry you to your peak. You have to walk through the fire. You have to break yourself down physically, mentally, emotionally, so you can rebuild from a stronger foundation. Pain isn't the enemy, staying the same is. And once you flip that switch in your head, once you decide that pain is the cost of greatness, you stop fearing it. You start using it. There's something deeply empowering about choosing pain, about showing up even when you know it's going to hurt. That's where you build mental toughness. That's where your identity shifts. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop craving motivation. You become the type of person who follows through no matter what. And that mindset, that resilience, it spills into every other part of your life. Suddenly, you don't break under pressure. You don't fall apart when things go sideways. You've trained for discomfort, and you know how to carry it. The pain doesn't just build your body, it sharpens your focus. It teaches you to be present, to breathe through the chaos, to stay in control when everything inside you wants to quit. That kind of control is rare. It's what separates the people who play this game casually from the ones who dominate it. And if you can learn to live in that pain zone, to sit with it, embrace it, and keep moving, you become unstoppable. Because once you've suffered and survived, fear loses its power. You've already done what most people avoid their whole lives. You'll start to realize that the pain you feared was never as bad as the regret of quitting. You'll see that the soreness, the fatigue, the struggle, it all passes. But the pride of knowing you endured, that stays. And every time you endure again, that pride grows. It becomes your edge. It becomes the reason you walk differently, speak differently, train differently. You've earned it through pain most people couldn't handle for a single day. And the more you lean into it, the more powerful you become. This kind of pain builds patience too. Progress doesn't happen overnight. Results don't show up just because you want them. But the person who's willing to keep going through the discomfort, without complaining, without shortcuts, becomes a force of nature. That person doesn't get discouraged when things move slow. They're too focused on the process, too committed to the vision. Because pain taught them that nothing worth having comes easy, and they stopped expecting it to a long time ago. You'll even find yourself craving the pain, not because you're a masochist, but because you understand its role now. You'll chase the workouts that break you. You'll embrace the sets that make your heart pound and your muscles scream. You'll stop running from the hard things and start running toward them, because you know that every ounce of suffering is a deposit into your future. And you're building a future that's carved out of grit, not comfort. And when the pain hits hardest, when everything feels like it's falling apart, that's when you're closest to a breakthrough. That's when the growth is at its peak. Most people tap out right there, but not you. You lean in, you breathe through it. You remind yourself that this pain is proof that you're evolving, that this suffering is building something that can't be taken away from you. And in that moment, you don't fear the pain, you respect it, because you know it's making you into something real. There's a voice inside of you that no one else hears. It doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it whispers. Quiet but constant, it says there's more in you. And for most of your life, you've ignored it. Not because you don't want to listen, but because the world has conditioned you to silence it. You were told to be realistic, to calm down, to fit in, to play small. So that voice got buried beneath comfort, excuses, and distractions. But it never went away. It's still there, and every time you hit a set, every time you feel your heart pounding and your lungs burning, that voice gets louder. This isn't just about lifting weights. This is about becoming the person you were always meant to be. The strongest, sharpest, most focused version of you. But that version won't show up by accident. It only comes alive when you get tired of living below your potential. It only rises when you stop accepting average as your identity. Deep down, you already know you were built for more. You can feel it. You can sense it every time you're around people who settle. You feel the gap between who you are and who you could be. And the only way to close that gap is to go inward and do the work. That voice inside you isn't asking for attention. It's demanding change. It's calling you to evolve, to rise, to transform. But that process won't happen while you're living in denial. You have to stop pretending you're okay with good enough. You have to stop wearing fake confidence and calling it self-love. True growth starts with brutal honesty. You look yourself in the mirror and say, I've been playing small. I've been holding back. I've been letting fear and doubt run the show. That's when the real shift begins, not when you feel ready, but when you get real. The realest thing you can do for yourself is admit that you've got another level. That where you are now might be better than where you were, but it's nowhere close to where you're capable of going. And when you finally accept that, everything changes. You stop chasing external validation. You stop doing this for likes, for attention, for temporary hype. You start doing it for the future version of you, the one that's waiting on the other side of your discipline, your pain, and your consistency. In that version of you, it doesn't respond to hype. It responds to work. That internal voice is your guide. It doesn't care about comfort. It doesn't care if you're tired. It's not here to tell you you're doing great. It's here to remind you that you haven't even scratched the surface. And every time you choose to ignore it, you reinforce mediocrity. But every time you listen, every time you push through when it hurts, when it's inconvenient, when no one's watching, you feed that higher version. You start becoming who you were meant to be, not who the world told you to be. It's not easy. That voice will ask you to do things that don't make sense to the people around you. It'll pull you away from comfort, away from toxic environments, away from distractions. It'll isolate you, test you, and stretch you. But on the other side of that isolation is identity. The clarity that comes when you realize you were never supposed to blend in. You were never meant to settle. You were meant to rise above, to lead by example, to carry the weight that breaks others, and do it with purpose. There's a moment in every journey when you stop running from your potential and start chasing it. That moment isn't marked by loud celebration or a perfect day. It's quiet, it's internal. It happens when you hit the gym tired, when you train without applause, when you hit another rep even though your muscles are screaming. That's when the shift happens. That's when the voice becomes your standard, not your inspiration. You stop asking, should I do this? And you start saying, this is who I am. The more you listen to that voice, the more the world around you starts to shift. Your standards rise. Your circle tightens, your purpose sharpens, and suddenly you're not just lifting for aesthetics. You're training to build someone dangerous, someone disciplined, someone who can walk into any room and command respect, not because they're loud, but because they've earned it through years of silent work. That kind of presence can't be faked. It can only be built, brick by brick, in the shadows, and every single rep, every meal, every decision either takes you closer to that version or further away. That voice won't scream at you. It'll just keep whispering. But if you're brave enough to listen, if you're bold enough to follow, it will lead you to places most people will never go. It will take you beyond comfort, beyond fear, beyond failure, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you finally decided to become the person you were born to be. And that decision, that quiet, relentless commitment to rising, that's where the real transformation begins. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for permission. That voice inside you is the green light. It's the reminder that everything you need is already inside of you. The fire, the grit, the potential, it's all there. Buried under comfort, but ready to be awakened. All it needs is your decision to stop ignoring it and start acting like it's the only voice that matters. You weren't born disciplined, you built it. Every early morning you didn't hit snooze. Every workout you showed up for when no one else did. Every clean meal you prepped instead of grabbing what was easy. That was you building it, brick by brick. Discipline isn't a gift handed out to a lucky few. It's a choice made over and over again until it becomes part of your identity. And most people never get there because they stop choosing. They want the results, but they don't want the repetition. They want the body, but not the blueprint. They want greatness, but only when it's convenient. But the truth is, discipline only reveals itself through repetition. It's not built on motivation or good vibes. It's built on the days when you don't feel like doing anything, but still get up and execute. And those days matter more than the days when everything clicks. Because it's in those low moments, the silent ones, the hard ones, that your real self is formed. That's where your character is built. You either follow through, or you fall apart. And every time you follow through, no matter how small, you reinforce a mind that most people never touch. People talk about wanting to become their best self, but they forget what that requires. Discipline is the price, and it's a high price. It will cost you comfort, ease, and even popularity, because the disciplined version of you doesn't take shortcuts. That version shows up early, stays late, and says no when everyone else is saying yes. And the world won't clap for you while you're doing it. There's no crowd, no reward, just you grinding in silence, stacking wins no one else sees, but you feel them. You carry them, you become them. Discipline is lonely. Not everyone will understand why you wake up early on weekends, why you say no to junk food, why you train like your life depends on it. But they're not supposed to understand because it's not their vision. It's yours. Discipline forces you to move even when you feel misunderstood. It demands that you stay locked in even when everyone around you is distracted. And eventually, that separation becomes elevation. Because while they're stuck explaining their excuses, you're stacking results. This isn't about perfection. You're going to have off days. You'll fail, you'll slip, you'll question yourself. But discipline isn't about never messing up. It's about never staying down. It's the force that pulls you back on track when your emotions try to take over. Emotions are inconsistent. Discipline is not. That's why it's your greatest weapon. It doesn't rise and fall with your mood. It's consistent, ruthless, sharp. It moves without negotiation. You either do the work or you don't. And when you build your life around that standard, everything changes. Eventually, discipline becomes your identity. It becomes who you are, not what you do. You don't have to hype yourself up anymore. You just act. You don't have to beg yourself to go to the gym. You just go. It's not a debate. It's not a decision. It's automatic. Because you've trained yourself to honor your commitments more than your cravings. You've learned to chase progress more than comfort. And when discipline becomes identity, success becomes inevitable. Not overnight, but always. Discipline is what keeps you focused when the results are slow, when the scale doesn't move, when the mirror shows no change, when the world doesn't acknowledge your effort. That's when most people quit because they were chasing validation, not transformation. But when you're disciplined, you don't need external proof. You trust the process. You believe in the compounding power of showing up daily. You know that if you just keep planting seeds, the harvest will come, and it always does for the disciplined. Even in pain, discipline thrives. When your body aches and your mind screams to stop, discipline is the quiet voice that says one more. It's the fire that never goes out. It's the drive that won't die, even when everything around you says give up. That's why it's more powerful than motivation. Because motivation is a feeling, but discipline is a decision. And once you decide that nothing will stop you, not weather, not mood, not opinions, you become a different breed. The type that gets results because they earn them. And don't think for a second that discipline stops at the gym. It leaks into everything. Your relationships, your business, your habits, your sleep, your words. How you do one thing becomes how you do everything. If you're disciplined with your training, you'll be disciplined with your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions. You'll start holding yourself to a higher standard everywhere, and people will notice. Not because you told them, but because they can feel the energy of someone who owns their life. At the end of the day, you have to decide what you want, more comfort or growth. You can't have both. And if growth is the goal, discipline is the way. It won't be easy. It won't be glamorous, but it will be worth it. Because nothing feels better than knowing you didn't wait for inspiration. You didn't depend on hype. You didn't need a crowd. You did the work day after day and built something no one can take away from you. That's the power of discipline. It's the quiet force behind every transformation that matters. There will come a point in your journey when you're forced to face the truth, not about the world, not about other people, but about yourself. That's when things get real, because it's easy to hide behind surface-level effort. It's easy to wear discipline like a mask when everything is going well. But when the noise fades, when there's no one around to clap, when it's just you staring at the person in the mirror, you'll realize that this entire game has always been internal. You're not battling the weights, the diet, or the distractions. You're battling you. That internal war is the one no one talks about. The war between the version of you that wants to evolve and the one that's terrified to let go of who you've been. It's the pull between comfort and conviction. One side of you whispers, "You've done enough," while the other growls, "We're just getting started." And in those moments, your choices will expose who's really in charge. Not your words, not your posts, your actions. That's why this journey requires more than strength. It requires self-awareness, honesty, and unshakable ownership. You don't truly grow until you confront the parts of yourself that are holding you back. The laziness you justify, the excuses you dress up as logic, the fears you hide under fake confidence. You have to look at all of it without filters. That's uncomfortable. It's humbling, but it's necessary. Because if you don't take full ownership of where you are, you'll never take full control of where you're going. You'll stay stuck in cycles, convincing yourself you're progressing when really, you're just spinning your wheels. True transformation demands that you stop blaming external circumstances. It demands that you stop waiting for the perfect conditions to show up. Your results aren't based on your environment, they're based on your decisions. Harsh truth, your life right now is a reflection of what you've tolerated, what you've accepted, and what you've repeated. And if that bothers you, good, use it. Let it ignite something inside you, not to feel ashamed, but to feel awake. Because once you become aware, you can never go back to being blind. Every rep you hit, every time you choose the hard path, you're not just building muscle, you're building integrity. The kind that doesn't need applause to feel valid, the kind that doesn't crack under pressure, the kind that shows up even when no one's watching. That kind of integrity only comes when you hold yourself to a personal standard so high that even on your worst days, you don't let yourself off the hook. That standard becomes your compass, your filter, your inner contract, and it's signed with effort, not intention. When you begin to operate this way, everything changes. You stop caring about impressing people who aren't even in the arena. You stop explaining your discipline to people who have never built anything for themselves. You stop chasing external validation and start building internal validation. That's when you become dangerous, not because you're loud, but because you're unshakable. You've done the internal work. You've sat in silence with your doubt and came out the other side stronger. And this isn't about being perfect, it's about being real. Some days you'll stumble. Some days your old self will claw back and try to take the wheel. That's normal. But what's not normal is staying down, letting one bad day become a bad week, letting one slip become a slide. That's where the internal war is either won or lost. And the ones who win, they course. Correct fast. They own the mistake and realign with the mission. No pity, no drama, just correction and continuation. The most powerful shift happens when you stop wanting to change and start refusing to stay the same. That switch flips something in your spirit. You start moving differently. You train with intention. You eat like it matters. You rest like a weapon. Everything becomes precise not because you're obsessed with control, but because you finally respect the process. You understand that greatness isn't built in one massive leap. It's built in thousands of micro decisions that no one else sees. Eventually, you reach a point where you don't need external reminders. You don't need someone to text you to get up. You don't need alarms to tell you it's go time. You move off instinct, off internal wiring. You've reprogrammed yourself through consistent action, and now discipline isn't just a tool. It's your default. That's when you know you've stepped into the next version of yourself. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. And when that happens, the world starts to respond. Not because you asked for recognition, but because energy never lies. People feel it. They sense the standard you hold. They see the results stacking. And maybe they'll applaud, or maybe they won't. But it won't matter because your reward isn't in their approval. It's in the person you've become. The person who faced themselves, built themselves, and never looked back. The truth about growth is that it doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't wait for you to be in the mood. It doesn't ask if you're ready. Growth just demands that you show up, especially on the days when you don't want to. Those are the days that count the most, because anyone can be disciplined when they feel inspired. Anyone can eat clean when they're motivated. But it's the ones who show up in silence, who grind in the dark without recognition, who endure without applause. Those are the ones who separate themselves. Those are the ones building something real. You need to understand this clearly. Your potential does not live in the easy moments. It's hidden inside the discomfort, the resistance, the repetition that most people run from. That's where your edge is formed. Every time you push when your body says stop, every time you say no when temptation whispers yes, you're training more than your body. You're conditioning your character. You're proving to yourself that you are not controlled by emotion. You are led by purpose, and purpose doesn't clock out when it gets tired. It's not just about how hard you can go when everything is aligned. It's about how consistent you can be when nothing feels aligned. It's about showing up to the gym when you're exhausted, sticking to your diet when you're stressed, holding the line when everything inside you wants to break. That's when you find out what you're really made of. That's when the excuses get quiet and the mission gets loud. You stop needing perfect conditions and start learning how to thrive in the chaos. Success is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Intensity is exciting, it's explosive, it gets attention, but consistency, that's where the transformation happens. That's where your mind becomes bulletproof. That's where your habits are no longer decisions, they become part of who you are. And that kind of discipline isn't sexy. It doesn't come with a crowd, but it's what every champion is built on. Day in, day out, win or lose, rain or shine, you just keep going. You have to get to a place where discipline is non-negotiable, where it's not tied to your emotions or your schedule or what other people are doing. It's just who you are now. You train when you're tired. You follow through when you're not in the mood. You hit your sets like it's your last shot. Because you know that every rep, every choice, every effort is either feeding the old you or forging the new one. And the new one, they don't have room for excuses. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because they can't stay consistent long enough to see the results. They stop too soon. They confuse slow progress with no progress. But the ones who make it, they're the ones who stay locked in. They're the ones who keep showing up, even when the scale doesn't move, even when the mirror doesn't change. They know the results are coming, they're just not here yet. And that belief, that patience, is a weapon most never develop. And that's what separates growth-minded people from everyone else. They don't operate based on how they feel. They operate based on who they want to become. And that gap between who you are now and who you want to be? It's not bridged by motivation, it's bridged by discipline. You build that bridge one choice at a time. One meal, one rep, one decision to rise instead of fold, and the more you choose the harder path, the more natural it becomes. Not easier natural, because you've trained your standard, not your mood. Your future self is watching everything you do. They're depending on you to make the hard calls now, so they can live with freedom, strength, and clarity later. And that future self, they don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be consistent, to show up when it's boring, to stay focused when it's hard, to keep believing when the results don't show up right away. Because every time you stay locked in when most people check out, you're casting a vote for the life you say you want. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of discipline, a version with a different body, a different mindset, a different presence. But you don't get there by wishing, you get there by choosing again and again. What most won't. You get there by being the kind of person who doesn't need reminders or validation. You lead yourself, you coach yourself, you hold the line even when no one else sees the line. That's where real self-respect is built. That's where transformation becomes permanent. This isn't about hype. It's about commitment. It's about building the kind of internal fire that doesn't go out when the spotlight fades. It's about becoming someone who doesn't need to be told to get up and grind. Because they already decided a long time ago that this is who they are now. Someone who does the work, someone who doesn't fold, someone who lives disciplined not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not.